This is America Weekend. I'm Mike Bennett. Naturalist and farmer Greg Quinn is a weekly contributor here. Greg is responsible for helping to bring black currants back into the U.S. market and, in fact, grows black currants on the Currant farm in the Hudson Valley, New York.
I'm Greg Quinn with this week's entry into Notes from the Currant Farm. In 54 A.D., it was forbidden for the commoners of Rome to consume or even possess the rare spice saffron. But after each of his trips away from the ancient city, the 17-year-old Roman emperor, Nero, would return riding down the sacred street Via Scata, with his subjects spreading this treasured spice on the road ahead of his white horse with a welcome back befitting only an emperor. Saffron is the dried stigma of some of the 90-some-odd species of crocus. These beautiful little purple flowers have played a key role throughout history. From as far back as the time of cave-dwelling humans, today saffron is still one of the most expensive spices in the world, with a half an ounce often selling for well over $100. Saffron has been used throughout the ages in a good part of the world as a spice for food, to aromatize wine, as a pigment for fabric dye and paints, and as a medicine and therapy for close to 100 ailments. Saffron-based pigments have been found in the prehistoric paintings of animals in 50,000-year-old cave art found in Iraq, and in ancient Greece, featured in several Greek frescoes which may date back to 3000 B.C., a Minoan goddess is depicted plucking these flowers and harvesting the stigmas for possible use in a therapeutic potion. Alexander the Great mixed saffron into teas and dined on saffron rice, and he also used it therapeutically in warm bath water to help heal his many wounds. And the followers of Buddha used saffron to dye their clothing, and immediately after his death, his attendant monks decreed saffron as the official color for Buddhist robes because of its resemblance to the color of sunset. Cleopatra used saffron in her warm baths because she prized its coloring and cosmetic properties. She also used it before encounters with men, believing in its aphrodisiac properties. When groups of Germans, Dutch, and Europeans fled religious persecution to America, they settled mainly in eastern Pennsylvania in the Susquehanna River Valley. They became known as the Pennsylvania Dutch. By 1730, they were widely cultivating saffron from crocus corms they had cultivated in Europe and brought to America. The Pennsylvania Dutch saffron was so successfully marketed to Spanish colonists in the Caribbean that its listed price on the Philadelphia Commodities Exchange was set equivalent to that of gold. However, the War of 1812 destroyed many of the ships and merchants that delivered American saffron abroad, and trade with the Caribbean markets never recovered. Saffron is still important to the Pennsylvania Dutch home, where it's used in their cakes and noodles and wonderful yellow chicken dishes. And today, saffron is playing an important role in Afghanistan, where farmers who for years grew poppies for the lucrative heroin trade are beginning to switch to saffron crocus cultivation instead. As an incurable foodie, I have many saffron crocus plants. Unlike their spring-blooming cousins, the purple saffron flower generally blooms in the fall. While these perennials do well in zones 6 through 10, the species of crocus, like gladiola and dahlias, don't handle the cold winters well here on the Currant farm. So I simply plant them in clay pots in the ground, and after their autumn bloom, when I finished harvesting the 3 precious red stigma from each flower, I leave them to go through a couple of frosts, then dig up the pots, store them in a cool basement, and in the spring, just plant the pots again. Join us next week for another edition of Notes from the Currant Farm. For a podcast of this and previous notes, and to learn more about the Currant Farm, go to currants.com. That's Currants with an A.
And with naturalist and farmer Greg Quinn, I'm Mike Bennett, and you're listening to America Weekend.